Hi, I'm your observationist, and today I want to talk to you about something that genuinely confuses me. I don't confuse easily. I've spent my life solving problems, creating practical solutions to complex issues. But there's one group of people whose behavior makes absolutely no sense to me at all, and that's the American farmers and ranchers. Here's what I observe. For decades, American farmers have built their entire business model around cheap Mexican labor. They relied on these workers from Mexico for over 175 years. These workers plant their crops, tend their fields, milk their cows, harvest their produce, and without Mexican workers, the American agricultural system would collapse overnight or at least be severely damaged. And yet these same farmers overwhelmingly vote for politicians who promise to deport their entire workforce. Before I continue, if you like these kinds of topics, please like and subscribe. It really does help. Thank you. Now, let me put this into perspective. American farming dependent counties backed Trump by 77% in 2024. These are the same farmers who employ a workforce that is 73% foreign born, with 45% of those being undocumented. They're voting to eliminate nearly a half of their workers. It's like watching someone systematically destroy the foundation of their house while they're still living in it. Anyway, so I started digging because when something doesn't make sense, there's usually a story behind it somewhere. And what I found was a tale of unintended consequences, deliberate exploitation, and a system so twisted that even its creators seem to have forgotten how it works. Now let's go back a little bit farther. Mexican workers coming to the United States for agricultural work is not new. This has been happening for a long time. The first American agricultural workers, or Mexican agricultural workers, were actually here when the border crossed them in 1848. About 80,000 Mexicans suddenly found themselves living in America after the Mexican-American War. But the migration continued. Starting in the late 1800s, as California agriculture expanded, farmers actively recruited Mexican workers. During the 1920s, 500,000 Mexicans migrated to the United States. Now here's the key point. For most of this time, this was not illegal immigration. It was just migration. Workers moving from where they were to where the work was. Simple as that. During World War II, the U.S. even created the Bracero program, which brought over 4 million Mexicans workers to the United States to work legally between 1942 and 1964. Farmers got their labor, the workers got their jobs, and everybody understood the rules, and everybody was happy. But then something changed. Cesar Chavez. In 1962, Cesar Chavez started the United Farm Workers. By 1965, the UFW was organizing massive strikes all across California. When the UFW won their first major victory in 1966, they secured a 40% wage increase for their farm workers. From a worker's perspective, this made perfect sense. They endured backbreaking labor, poverty wages, and terrible conditions. They felt they deserved better. And so they fought for that. But farmers saw Chavez as an existential threat. If all workers could organize and strike, their entire profit model would collapse, as they saw it anyway. They needed a solution, and they found one. Farmers discovered that undocumented workers were their perfect solution. Think about it. An undocumented worker cannot join a union. He cannot demand minimum wage, and he can't complain about conditions. Can't go on strike. Fear of deportation keeps them powerless. In 1974, Cesar Chavez himself identified this in a letter. Illegal aliens are doubly exploited. First, because they are farm workers, and second, because they are powerless to defend their own interests or fight for themselves. Farmers were deliberately using undocumented workers as strikebreakers. They discovered the perfect workforce. People who couldn't fight back. Now, creating the legal system. By the 1980s, farmers wanted a system that was legalized but broken by design. In 1986, They got it. The Immigration Reform and Control Act of 1986 made it illegal. By the way, this happened under Reagan. It made it illegal to hire undocumented workers, but created a legal pathway, so-called H-2A visas. But this pathway was deliberately inadequate. It was designed to be inadequate. At first, it was a 60, 75-day bureaucratic process, which is crazy for a seasonal worker. It was also a $1,000 cost per worker. Well, that kind of defeats the whole point of a below minimum wage worker. Only for seasonal work. So that excluded dairies, which require workers year-round. So it provided less than 4% of the needed workers to the system. Meanwhile, enforcement was virtually non-existent, as it was designed to be. The enforcement was supposed to be non-existent. The result, farmers could publicly support border security, quote unquote, while privately depending on the workforce those policies were supposed to eliminate. It was perfect for them. Farmers got the exploitable workforce, and they could take the high ground and say, "Oh, these people are illegal," and blame them for being illegal, when of course they were made illegal by the system. Today, 73% of agricultural workers are foreign-born, like I mentioned, and 42% have no legal authorization. When ICE conducts raids like they've done recently, the results are immediate. One New Mexican dairy recently went from 55 workers to 20 after a single raid. Studies show losing undocumented workers like that could double milk prices and cost agriculture $30 to $60 billion. Yet farmers continue voting for politicians promising exactly this outcome. Trump won farming communities by 77%, actually more than that, while they employ the very workforce that he promises to deport. And I have to give Trump credit. This time, he is actually following through on his campaign promise. He is deporting them. Recent raids had farmers begging for exemptions from enforcement, while still supporting Trump's policies causing the enforcement. This is why I'm confused. I cannot figure that out. What are these farmers thinking? Do they believe that they're exempt from consequences? Are they confused about how their own operations work? Are they confused about the system that they set up? Have they become so committed to an identity opposing illegal immigration that they'll sacrifice their own economic interests to maintain it? Their family's future? Their children's future? I spent my life creating practical solutions, but this is not a problem with a practical solution, because the people most affected by it are actively making it worse. Here's the ultimate irony. These farmers spent decades creating a system to exploit Mexican workers, keeping them vulnerable and illegal, and now they're shocked the system might actually affect them. This kind of reminds me of the old Three Stooges scene where they're all in a leaky rowboat and they're all bailing the water out to stay afloat. Curly, he's always the smart one. I love him. He's always has brilliant ideas that always go disastrously wrong. Anyway, he starts drilling holes in the boat. And of course, the water starts shooting up all over the place, and now they're really sinking. Mo sees what he did and, shocked, asks, "Why?" And Curly answers with supreme confidence, "To let the water out, yuck, 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 yuck." No wonder Mo was always slapping him. Anyway, the facts are clear. Farmers created the exploitable illegal immigration system to undermine labor organizing. They depended on this system for decades, and their businesses will now collapse without the Mexican farmer. They voted for its destruction. Maybe they think they can have their cake and eat it too, enjoy exploitable labor while blaming the workers for being exploitable. Maybe they think they can go on forever. I've seen self-destructive behavior before, but I've never seen an entire industry systematically working so hard to eliminate the foundation of its own existence. Well, anyway, this has been The Observationist. I'm your host. Still confused, still watching and wondering if American farmers will figure out what they're doing before they sink their collective boat. Oh, and by the way, please watch part 2. This is only part 1. I'll go over a little bit more of the history of the situation. And if you like this topic, don't forget to like and subscribe. Please let me know what you think in the comments. If you have any topics that you would like me to address, please tell me about them in the comments. I'd love to hear what interests you. Thank you.